Welcome back to the Crimson Chat, where Jayhawks meet innovation. I'm your host, Jaden Hill, and today we're diving into one of the 6 projects selected for KU's inaugural Rock Chalk Ready program, a university-wide initiative designed to mature early-stage innovations and bring them closer to commercialization. Joining me are 2 researchers behind a groundbreaking therapeutic concept. Dr. Michael Hageman, who is a pharmacist with a PhD in pharmaceutical chemistry, and a Valentino J. Stella Distinguished Professor of Pharmaceutical Chemistry, and Yezan Salamoun, a pharmacist and graduate researcher whose conceptual vision helped drive this project forward. Their work? A novel prodrug formulation for oral testosterone replacement therapy, a potential game changer in hormone delivery. Michael, Yezan, welcome to the Crimson Chat.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. And before we get too far into the science, I'm going to do a couple of just quick get-to-know-you questions. So first off, how did you guys come to be in the fields that you are today?
So I think mine goes back to even middle school, high school, when I was very interested in the sciences, math, chemistry, biology, and that led me to pharmacy school. And after going in pharmacy school, I had an opportunity during the summer to do an internship in the pharmaceutical industry. And I came back from that experience convinced that what I wanted to do was not so much traditional pharmacy, but research in the pharmaceutical arena. So I went on to get my PhD here at the University of Kansas, and then worked in the pharmaceutical industry for 30 years before being fortunate and able to come back to the university to teach.
That's amazing. How about you, Yezan?
I would say very similar experience for me, whereas I was drawn to the science, and so that sort of led me towards healthcare in general, and then sort of picking between pharmacy, medical, some of the other healthcare professions. And what really interested me was just the magic that one little white pill could take and have an improvement on a patient's health, and so that really resonated with me. So I was drawn towards pharmacy. Then while I'm in pharmacy school, as a young pharmacy student, there's so many different career pathways that you can take, and I was very overwhelmed at the time, and I really considered doing residency and going the clinical route. And so in order to distinguish myself, I ended up doing a little bit of research, and I really fell in love with research, and that sort of drew me in, and here we are.
Yeah, and you mentioned that part of what you do is that drug formulation side of things. And are there multiple sides of research in the pharmacy field, or what does that look like, and how do you choose which side to do?
Yeah, it's a very broad thing. So we have different fields, we have different schools, or not schools, courses within the pharmacy school curriculum. So you have medicinal chemistry, pharmaceutical chemistry, pharmacology, toxicology, all these fancy different words, but the one that really stood to me was our pharmaceutical chemistry department and delivering drugs. And most probably that was because of just the rich science that our department has, specifically with people like Dr. Higuchi was actually a pioneer of the science itself, and succeeded by people like Dr. Stella or Dr. Burkhart. And these people are really legends in our department. And as a student, you see people doing amazing things and bringing products onto the market that are really helping patients. And as a pharmacy student, I said, well, it looks like they're actually helping more patients than a pharmacist would at a larger impact. And I sort of saw myself in some of those roles and was really inspired by some of those people. And so that's kind of how I joined my department rather than some of the other also excellent departments that we have in our school of pharmacy.
Yeah, that's a really cool journey. And I guess I should take a couple steps back and say, so what exactly is pharmaceutical chemistry? Yeah. Really break it down. What's that definition for us?
Well, I think I would start, probably the easiest way is that we have a drug, but we really don't sell drugs. We sell a drug product. So you buy a tablet or you buy an injectable or something like that. So there's that mechanism of getting that drug to where it has to be active is really the pharmaceutical chemistry. So we try to take the understanding about the drug itself, make a dosage form which you can swallow, which you can put in as an eye drop, whatever it might be. And so it's really taking the drug and getting it to where it can have activity.
And as someone who's been in the industry for many, many years, what's something that you feel like people don't know but maybe should know about it?
I think that the overwhelming thing that I came away with is the complexity. I think I had no idea what all is involved and the number of people that are involved and the time that's involved. A new drug, a new discovery, you will not see it on the market for 10 years. And so all of that time you have, if not hundreds of people, maybe even 1,000 people working on it. So it's very resource intensive, but at the end of the day, it's very rewarding, as Yezan has said. So.
And Michael, your expertise is in preclinical assessment and formulation design, drug delivery. What exactly do all of those things mean, and how does your background support you in that?
So once a drug is discovered or somebody comes up with that drug, preclinical refers to prior to dosing it to humans. And so we have to do extensive evaluation to then get permission from regulatory agency, the FDA in this case in the US, to actually begin studies in humans. So there's many things that we have to do that ranges from how do we get it into a tablet? Is it stable if we put it on the shelf for 6 months, 2 years? Is it okay when you get done? And then what sort of, and I'll use the term pharmacokinetics that it has. So when we dose a drug to the body's programmed to get rid of it, right? So it tries to clear that drug. And so we have to evaluate a preclinical candidate to determine whether it has the appropriate properties to become a drug. For instance, if you dose the drug and it's eliminated from the body in a matter of minutes, that's probably not going to be a very good drug. So what we do is we evaluate that, and we do a lot of animal testing for safety purposes, which is key before you go into any sort of human investigation. So.
Yeah, and I'm going to turn to you, Yezan, and ask, you were kind of, according to Michael, the driver of the conceptual idea of this new innovation. How does what you're saying play into what this drug is and how you guys came up with this formulation?
Yeah, so I would say I was kind of inspired from previous knowledge. Everything comes from somewhere else, right? We're all inspired by each other. No idea is truly novel. I was sitting in class one day and we were learning about some of these different formulations and what's called prodrug strategies. And so what a prodrug is, it's an inactive compound that becomes activated by our bodies. Like you said, they're programmed to turn and eliminate medicines and drugs. And so by delivering a prodrug, you're giving something that's inactive, and then it uses the body to become active. And so we were just learning about one such strategy, and I was sort of interested if this approach had been used on a formulation like testosterone. I started doing some literature search and reading about it, and I didn't see anybody that tried it, so I thought, well, why don't I do this? So yeah, that was kind of how the idea came to be, and then I met Dr. Hageman, and I sort of pitched the idea to him, and that's just how all research questions start, is, has somebody tried this before? Is this worth trying? And then figuring it out.
And what are the ways that this can help different people? Like, what are the applications of this discovery?
Yeah, so testosterone was really synthesized in the 1930s and has been used to treat all sorts of different disorders of male hormone deficiencies. So for example, testosterone replacement therapy is used to treat testosterone deficiency. It can also be used to treat some menopausal symptoms. In children, it can be used to start delayed puberty growth for children with something like Kallman syndrome or Klinefelter syndrome. So these various conditions that testosterone is used for and is therapeutically relevant for. However, since testosterone has been synthesized, we've never really been able to give it as an oral pill, which is the most convenient for the most number of patients. It's mainly been relegated to injectable products or topical formulations where you have to apply it on your skin. And so those have always been traditionally the ways that you deliver testosterone. So since we've had this as a product on the market, we've never really been able to viably give it orally.
And so what makes it so hard to deliver this orally? What are the barriers there?
Yeah, as Dr. Hageman mentioned, the body is really programmed to get rid of and clear medicines and drugs. And so the body is really good at clearing and inactivating testosterone. So when you take it as an oral pill, less than 1% of it will actually make it to your bloodstream because your liver will inactivate it. And so they've actually tried things to sort of get around this problem. So if your body is inactivating and metabolizing it, they were able to make chemical modifications to testosterone to sort of mitigate and block some of that metabolism. And that really did work well. We had testosterone analogs that were able to be given orally, but then they had the issue of toxicity, and they caused things like liver toxicity and also liver cancers. And so when we're approaching this from a formulation, we really have to balance two things, which is we have to divert some of that metabolism that's inactivating it and making it so hard to deliver orally, but we also have to balance something like the toxicity as well. So it's really striking that balance between those two really factors that's made it a 100-year-old problem of delivering oral testosterone.
And this has obviously been a product that's been long coming. Like you mentioned, you were sitting in a classroom and had this idea. What has the formulation of this project between you two looked like? How did this kind of come together, and what are your guys' roles now?
So I would, when Yezan came to me with the idea, and I don't even know if at the time he had officially decided he was going to graduate school. I think it was still a thought. And we discussed a little bit of the opportunities. And most, I would say, graduate students coming in don't come in with an idea and a concept which is potentially progressible. I had minimal experience with startup companies, although have been involved in it on the periphery. And I was intrigued by that whole process, of which, again, unlike a lot of graduate students, Yezan was very intrigued with the whole startup. And so in reality, I've been learning as much from him on the whole process as he probably has from me. So I think it was just two people coming together at the right point in time. It really was.
Yeah, I don't really have much to add to that. Yeah, I remember Dr. Hageman, he actually reached out to congratulate me on a paper that I had published in a previous lab. And he said, "I'm not sure if we've met, but if we haven't, we should." And I said, "Who is this guy?" One of our professors just emailing me like this. And I was just asking around about Dr. Hageman, and everyone that I asked said, "Oh, you should really meet this guy. He's a big deal. He has a lot of experience, and I think he could be a good connection for you." So I met him, and basically by the end of our call, he had convinced me that graduate school was the right decision for me. As I later realized, he's really good at recruiting and putting students in the right position that they have to succeed. And I've been very fortunate to work with Dr. Hageman, whereas other mentors probably would not have been so interested in a startup or entrepreneurial endeavor, as it's a big time commitment for them as well. So to have a student that's interested in it, but also the mentor that supplies the resources, pushes them in the right direction, and has those connections to turn this idea into something translatable, I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, that's really amazing. And that is such a great skill in a mentor, to be able to see something in someone else they may not even see in themselves. At what point was there a breakthrough in this where you're like, this is going to be maybe the next big thing? Was there a moment?
Yeah, I would say anytime somebody funds your idea, it means that they believe in you. And so we've very gratefully been able to obtain various sources of funding, such as Startup Central, which is another grant similar to the Rock Chalk grant, which we're here talking about today. But really, for me, when it's just an idea in your head, and to see that idea actualize, that was the moment for me. So for example, we do these liver cell studies where you incubate your drug with liver cells, and then you can measure the formation of various things. And so when we incubated our formulation and seen that it was producing testosterone, and this turned into, from an idea just in my head, into something that I can measure and do something in the lab. And so for me, that moment was like, well, we might be onto something here. So that was really exciting for the first time.
And then I think when he was able to take that result and present it to others who provide the sort of funding that we're seeking, and they buy it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That is really key, because you've kind of crossed this precipice of somebody really does believe enough in you.
Yep.
That they're going to provide funds to help you move along.
And hopefully that becomes a ripple effect, right? So you have one piece of data, then somebody gives you money, and then you get another piece of data, and that's really how we progress in research.
Yeah, and so you guys kind of brought me to my next part, talking about the Rock Chalk Ready program. And what does the support from that program look like? Is it just financial? Are there other parts of that?
Yeah, I think largely for the Rock Chalk, it's really coming up with your milestones and designing a plan of how you're going to execute those, and convincing the researcher or the review team that you're the researchers for this job, that we're going to be able to execute all the milestones that we say that we're going to do, along with the financial support. I believe there's some consultants that we can reach out to and contact. And then there's a really sort of interesting piece of the Rock Chalk where they sort of pair you up with a business student. And so it's kind of like a interprofessional sort of collaboration where you have a business student that is going to work on some aspect of your project, and we can sort of delegate that however we like. And really, obviously, they bring in some expertise that we definitely don't have. And so it's always possible to learn from someone else. And I think the hopes is that we can come up with a commercialization plan utilizing some of the expertise and just a different perspective than what we have from the purely scientific background and maybe some entrepreneurial spirit, but looking at things from the purely business side of things. Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, with both of you being so deep into academics and not as much on that entrepreneurial side, has there anything that's been surprising to you through that process of, kind of starting this startup?
Yeah, I think just seeing how many different sort of problems that we encounter. I mean, I'm still new to research compared to somebody with as much experience as Dr. Hageman, but when you're really tackling something translational like this, you sort of run into all different kinds of problems, because you may be testing various things all at once. We may be doing in-cell testing, we may be doing animal testing, we may be making formulations, and so we have all kinds of different issues that we're trying to face all at one time. Yeah.
And I think it's difficult when you set out to understand the order in which you do things, and especially when you're starting a company. You start up a company. I mean, we both go, really, we got to do that and this, and you have to do this before you can do that. And so I think it's been a huge learning opportunity, and actually the university has been very good about trying to grow that part of opportunities for faculty and students. So, and it's really an investment, and because they believe in what we're doing, they're looking for us to be good stewards of their investment, and they want to get something out of it. And so it also is looking to, well, what's the next step? Ultimately, do we have a product that can benefit the university by licensing it or something like that?
So yeah, that brings me to my next question, which what is your guys' next steps? You've had this breakthrough, you've gotten the Rock Chalk Ready program grant, you've gotten some other funding. What do the next steps look like?
Yeah, I think the immediate goal with some of the Rock Chalk funding is to do some more animal testing. And typically people start in rodents because that's the cheapest, but when you get a nice little lump sum of money from the Rock Chalk, you can do something a little bit more expensive. So we're sort of excited to test our idea in larger species like dogs, which have a much more similar metabolism to humans than, for example, rodents do. And so that would be our most immediate milestone. But ultimately, like Dr. Hageman said, it's beneficial for all parties to reach some sort of licensing agreement, mainly with larger pharmaceutical companies, because when you get to clinical trials, that becomes all kinds of different questions that you have to answer and a bunch of different expertise that you're going to need. And so maybe partnering with a larger pharmaceutical company or somebody that has that skills for clinical trials that on our Lawrence side of campus, we're not necessarily built out for all of that at the current stages. So yeah, that's kind of the immediate to long-term future.
Yeah, that's really, really exciting. And to get a little bit back more into the science, Michael, you worked with amorphous systems, polymers, excipients. How do those elements factor into this formulation?
So when I talked earlier about our purpose is to deliver a drug and get it to its target, there are a couple of steps. The prodrug step that we had mentioned is one which helps in vivo to get it where we need to go, but we still have to get it, if we're going to deliver it orally, we have to come up with a tablet or a solution or a suspension, something that we can a patient can dose. To do that, you have to use various excipients. And usually, for instance, if you were to take most tablets, the actual drug in the tablet is probably less than 20% of the weight of the tablet. Everything else is things that you put in there so you can make a tablet, so it can be dissolved and so forth. So that experience that I really gained while I was in industry positions us well to come up with the formulation component of the prodrug as well. So it's almost like a two-step process that we have to go through. And so as we progress, those experiences, I think, will enable us to do stuff, and maybe most importantly, we're able to convince whoever's investing in us that we can do it because we have the appropriate experience. So.
And Yezan, what excites you most about the potential impact of this therapy? Is it the science behind it? Is it for the patients? Is it the commercialization?
This is a really tough question, actually, because they're all exciting in the short answer. But from a pharmacist's perspective, I've seen patients that have to give themselves these testosterone injections, and it's a long needle. If you think of a flu shot, it's intramuscular. It goes in your muscle, and you have to give that to yourself every week or every 2 weeks. So that's not an easy thing to do for a patient, and patients already don't like needles. You also have the topical formulations, which have this risk of transferring to other people. So there have been small case reports where dad is playing with his kid, but there was testosterone gel on his chest or something like that, and that transfers to the baby, and that causes some malformations, and it's just really dangerous. So from a patient perspective, to be the person that solves that and being able just to deliver an oral medication that is just easily deliverable once a day for patients, I think that would excite me the most.
That is really, really cool. And you guys kind of mentioned success for this project is the eventual commercialization. Do you plan on doing any startups after this?
Personally, I don't have any plans, but if I can find another student like Yezan, I will.
I would say I sort of see myself in the serial entrepreneur role. I've actually previously started a supplement company with my brother and some friends, and sort of this is my second endeavor, and I'm already on to the next idea mentally, but there's a lot of problems we have to deal with so one step at a time for me.
No, that makes sense. So this supplement company, I'm just curious, when did you start that?
It was just at the beginning of pharmacy school, yeah. So it's Primal Power Supplements, 2020, I believe. Yeah.
That's really, really exciting. And for you guys, how do you approach the balance between the scientific realm of things and, the rigor of that, as well as working with, patients and realizing this is, real world application? What does that look like for you guys?
It certainly is challenging, and I think my time in industry has taught me that you have to balance that, because you can take the rigor to a point where you don't make any progress. And when you're working in an industrial setting, that's not acceptable, because they want to put a product on the market. And so there's a constant driver for, can you develop quality information that allows you to make a decision on the next level of resource investment? And so I think what it really comes down to is, in science, we're never certain of what's going to happen, but we can spend time and say the probability that this is going to work is extremely high, and it's worth then doing the next step. So I think our goal is get quality information that enables the decision making. And but it's a constant balance, and I think it's a good thing for, I think, students to learn, because once you go out into the world, you have that constant pressure of time that you have to deal with.
I think just to add to that, I mean, this is a question that we tackle all the time, right? Normally, PhD theses are judged on their scientific rigor, but we also have this other aspect where we're trying to translate and make something commercializable. So ultimately, what we looked at it as is the real purpose of a PhD is to improve your critical thinking and problem-solving skills. So as long as we're making some of those steps to identify and put to work our problem-solving skills and tackle some of those issues, we won't be able to answer all the questions, but we will be able to improve some of that certainty to move on to the next step, so to speak. So that's how we've tried to take a balance, but it is really, it's a tough thing to do.
And what advice would you guys give to maybe an early startup or some researchers who are wanting to take things commercialization route?
Yeah, I would say that you need to be part of a community or some sort of incubator hub. So for example, KU has really put in a lot of resources and interest into helping faculty members translate their ideas and make them into commercializable products. And you can't do it on your own. Something like KU Innovation Park, where you go and you see people at different stages. People are at startups, people are a little bit larger, medium-sized, or you have somebody with just an idea. And so when you interact with those people, you realize there's a whole ecosystem out there. And people have different expertise, whether that's regulatory, various sciences, businesses. So you need to tap into everybody else's resources. And that's something that I've learned, is that nobody can even remotely do even one aspect by themselves. So you need to sort of network with those people and tap into their expertise in order to get something done.
Yeah. And you find that when you interact with people at various stages, your network expands tremendously, because otherwise you become limited in what you know and what you pursue.
And finally, what is something that you really love about being a part of the KU community?
So I have the ability to contrast it to 30 years in the industry. So it is very different. I would be kidding you if I said I didn't miss the level of resource that you have when you're in a corporation of that size. But what industry doesn't provide is the enthusiasm, the energy, the youthful pursuit of ideas. And it's part of the reason I came back to academia, and working with the students and seeing them grow, because they are our future. So I really love that part of it.
Yeah. I think I would echo something sort of similar, where at least in our lab, everybody's always really helpful. All the students are helping each other out. Even though we have different projects and different goals, we're all sort of motivated together and sort of building that lab community and a community as graduate students and as KU students as a whole. I think KU is a really great place to be.
Yeah, well, Michael, Yezan, thank you both for sharing your amazing vision. I congratulate you on being a part of the Rock Chalk Ready innovation. And your project really reminds us that innovation is at the base of a lot of really exciting stuff happening in our world. So thank you for your mentorship, for your ability to collaborate, and to bring this hopefully to the markets soon. I'm excited to watch where this project goes. And to our listeners, stay curious, stay collaborative, and follow us on social media for more stories from KU's Research Frontier. We'll see you next week on the Crimson Chat.